We are SportsBeat Live today. It's Wednesday, September 9th, and I'm Blair Kerkhoff. The countdown to the Chiefs opener is one, and the Stars coverage team of Herbie Teope, Sam McDowell, Sam Mellinger, and Vahe Gregorian are here to talk about the Thursday night game against the Texans and about the 2020 season for the defending Super Bowl champion. We'll have some predictions for you at the end, so let's get right into it. Good to see you guys. Man, how about this? Day before the NFL opener, been waiting since February 4th for this game. I couldn't help driving down here today, wearing my jacket, have the windshield wipers going, thinking so I looked up on the Weather Channel what the temperature at kickoff is supposed to be tomorrow night, and somewhere around 58, 57 degrees. And I couldn't help but thinking what the temperature at kickoff was for the Chiefs in 2019 for the opener. Anybody remember that moment?
I was in New Orleans. I don't remember.
Well, let me refresh your memory. We were in
Jacksonville. Yeah. I remember that press box had the sun blasting in blasting our eyes most of the game.
Couldn't sit there before the game, really, right? We had to kind of move back.
Yeah.
I remember, Vahe, you and I going on the field to do one of these, live videos with Jill Toyoshiba, our photographer, and we got about 4 minutes into it and her camera melted. So I looked it up. It was 97 degrees at kickoff and 115 degrees on the field. That
sounds awesome. Sounds awesome.
So the alternative is probably one of the colder season openers that the Chiefs are going to play on tomorrow night. So let's before we get into the game, let's catch up on some news. This weekend obviously was a big weekend for the Chiefs with the cuts down to the 53-man roster. And Herbie, take us through that and any surprises that we saw with the cuts. One of them, of course, a pretty high draft pick from the Chiefs from 2 years ago.
Yeah, and you're obviously talking about Breland Speaks. When you think about the Chiefs' 53-man roster, I think we pretty much knew who was going to make this team. But there were a lot of questions coming into this weekend or this past weekend about their second-round draft pick from a couple of years ago, defensive end Breland Speaks. They drafted him initially when they were in a 3-4. They switched to a 4-3 last year, which, of course, Speaks missed because of the knee injury. And they had a lot of catching up to do, and I think that was just too much for him to try to overcome as he was battling against guys like Taco Charlton, who the Chiefs liked. Their Mike Dana, their fifth-round draft pick, who they also liked. And it became a numbers game, and I think Speaks had just entirely too many obstacles to overcome, and the writing was on the wall that they were probably going to go a different direction, especially when Mellinger, Sam, and I were out there during training camp. It became clear that he was buried on the depth chart, and he had a lot of things to overcome.
Anybody else that surprised you a little bit? I don't know if I was terribly surprised, but it did leave the Chiefs with 15 or 16 newcomers for this season. I mean, one of the themes coming out of the Super Bowl was look at how many guys are coming back from the Super Bowl team, and there's quite a few that weren't on the Super Bowl team from last year. Sam Mack.
You know what? I think one of the best stories is Marcus Kemp. I mean, it was a guy that was probably going to make the team last year, tore his ACL late in camp that cost him a roster spot, and he wasn't on the team when camp started. So for them to bring him in a week into training camp and he makes the team, mostly because of his production on special teams, but they could have just kept 5 wide receivers. They kept 6 this year. A lot of times last year they went with 5. So I think he's a great story. And then obviously Tershawn Wharton getting the kid from Missouri S&T onto the team, a guy that they scouted at the East-West game in the offseason. That's obviously a great story too.
Yeah. Where are we going to see him? Where's he going to – are we going to see him on special teams? Is he going to get some defensive snaps? Where are we going to see Wharton play?
I think right now he's depth for defensive tackle. He played a lot of defensive end in college and defensive tackle, but I think they view him more as a defensive tackle. So I think right now it's depth, especially with that Mike Pennell suspension.
Yeah, the Pennell suspension is just a 2-gamer, right? It's so
right.
We'll see what happens when Pennell comes back. Going back to Speaks for a second, I look. The 2018 draft class. The Chiefs only have 3 guys left from that draft class, and Derek Nottie is one of them. Dorian O'Daniel, the linebacker, and Armani Watts, the safety. And, O'Daniel and Watts don't start. I'm just wondering, look, we gave Brett Veach a lot of praise throughout this offseason, deservedly so. It was a heck of a year offseason for the Chiefs. But you look back now at that 2018 draft class, not the results that you'd want for a class that's only 2 years behind us, Sam.
Yeah, but the look at the draft classes on each side of that one.
Not too shabby.
The one before they got the quarterback, whose name I can't remember right now, and the 2019 draft class looks great too. McCole Hardman, Juan Thornhill, Colin Saunders, Rashad Fenton, Darwin Thompson, even Allegretti. But yeah, I mean, one thing that I will say about with Breland Speaks, this is a weird thing to give a team credit for, but a lot of times teams hold on to mistakes for too long. And the Chiefs have not done this. Remember, it was Kavari Russell, the third round pick, I believe, was that 2016? I think it was 2016. They cut him almost right away. Again, it's a weird thing to give a team credit for, right? You drafted the wrong guy, so you deserve the criticism for that. But there are teams that will hold on to guys too long as well.
Okay, yeah, and you're right about the other draft classes. The 2019 draft classes
looks great.
Yeah, it looks terrific, and of course 17. That one will live in loving memory for Chiefs fans.
Blair, but it is kind of a funny quirk. I mean, that's officially Brett Veach's first draft class is the 2018 class, right? I mean, as much credit as he gets for perhaps what went into the number 10 pick overall in 2017. It's just kind of almost a oddity of Brett's record that's on the ledger that way.
Yeah.
Are we getting a glimpse of Mellinger's parenting?
Yeah. I will give him credit. He was looking for a football card. He came in here, so I'm not gonna be mad.
Which one? I mean, was it a good one or?
Basically, any card. He's 4. He doesn't know the difference. He just wanted a card.
Aren't they just all Bo Jackson cards in your house?
Yeah, that's how we start them off.
Well, there was some more news outside the Chiefs, but in the division. How about the Von Miller injury yesterday?
Yeah.
Ankle injury. He is out for the season. Second big injury in the conference so far this season, with Derwin James, the Chargers safety, also out for the season. I don't know. We're going to get into looking ahead to this Chiefs team and the expectations within the division and for the AFC and beyond. But I guess the best way to maybe frame this is the Chiefs have been pretty fortunate so far with not having a player injured. So in training camp, and of course no preseason games. But man, what a tough deal for the Broncos and the Chargers.
When you look around the NFL and you look at NFL teams, you always identify players that a team cannot afford to lose. And Von Miller, the elite pass rusher, is absolutely one of them. And what he means to that defense. They had Chubb, who missed all of last year, also with a knee injury. They were bringing him back, and they had high hopes that they could finally pair Von Miller and Chubb on the defensive end or outside linebacker spots there for them. And, that would have been a pretty potent pass rush. But now Chubb coming back, and now Von Miller goes out, and you're correct. And you hate to see that, not just for the Broncos, but also what Von Miller means for the league, because he's one of the faces.
Sure is. So, hey, look, taking your questions. Please let us know what you're thinking. We'll try to get to as many as we can. Let's start with one from Terrence Warnell Robinson, who says he knows that Jody Fortson received a lot of praise in training camp, but what about Hakeem Butler? Do you guys believe that the Chiefs might be interested in his body type, because they don't have that on the roster now? I remember Butler at Iowa State, big body wide receiver. Hey, Herbie, just take us through the decision with Fortson. What do you think it seemed like he had an outside chance of making it this year.
Yeah, he absolutely had an outside chance. If you go specifically on just the ability to make plays and the ability to make tough catches. But again, it boils down to, and Sam hit the nail on the head there with Marcus Kemp, it boils down to special teams. There was no way in the world Fortson was going to get more playing time over Tyreek Hill, Demarcus Robinson, Sammy Watkins, and McCole Hardman. There was just absolutely no way. Byron Pringle is unknown. The guy can play gunner. He's one of the top gunners on the Chiefs special teams. And so where do you put him? And it came down to special teams, and Fortson just can't overcome that right now. He's still a young player, so he can still grow and develop, but that 5th and 6th wide receiver position has to be able to contribute on special teams, and I think that's pretty much what sealed Fortson's fate.
Okay. All right, look, the Chiefs they're the favorite to repeat. When the Chiefs aren't favored by someone that we find on social media or some website, we're kind of surprised, right? The Chiefs really picking against the Chiefs. The Chiefs are all the key players back from a terrific team. But there has to be concerns, right? There's got to be some areas of concern for the Chiefs. Let's go around the table and identify what those concerns might be. If something goes wrong for the Chiefs, especially early on, what do you think that could be? Vahe, let's start with you.
Well, I hate to overstate the obvious, but that's kind of what I do. I mean, you don't want to see Patrick Mahomes get hurt. That's a concern. I think it's always out there, right? And we saw early last season how devastating that appeared to be. Luckily, he can just regenerate limbs, so everything will work out okay, but it still is on your mind. I know at least until Bashaud Breeland's back, they're a little thin at corner, at least in terms of what we've come to see out of them. So I think you might wonder about how that's going to be. And I think no matter what, I hate to echo a general manager, but you always do worry about depth, no matter how deep you appear to be across the board. So those are just some of my little thoughts on that.
Okay. Sam McDowell, what do you think?
Thanks for taking them all, Vahe. To me, it's got to be cornerback. I mean, this first month, you're probably going to be starting a 4th-round rookie at cornerback, and even the best cornerbacks, I think, struggle some in their rookie year, especially in the first couple of weeks. And Thursday night in particular, this is a bad matchup because the Texans, there's a lot of talk about them losing DeAndre Hopkins, right? But they still have 4 very capable wide receivers. And when you look at it, I'm not exactly sure who plays the slot in those dime packages, whether they have to bring down Tyrann Mathieu and then you lose something on the back end because of that. And you're probably going to be playing L'Jarius Sneed on the outside. And like I said, he's a 4th-round rookie. Obviously, they like L'Jarius Sneed, but he's never played an NFL snap, didn't even get a preseason snap. So for me, that obviously is the top concern right now.
How about this stat? Deshaun Watson has started, 3 games against the Chiefs, 2 in the regular season and 1 in the playoffs. Average scores for Chiefs-Texans in those games has been 39-32. So these guys just play high-scoring games. You remember that game that the first time Watson played against the Chiefs? It was down in Houston. The Chiefs had a big lead, and Watson comes up with 5 touchdown passes in that game, and it was just remarkable. Mahomes obviously was not playing for the Chiefs. He was on the bench, right? And the Chiefs won. Scored 42, and the Chiefs have won 2 of those 3 games. But whenever the Chiefs and Texans play, there is a lot of offense. In fact, the Texans, 472 total yards against the Chiefs in the regular season game last season was the most against the Chiefs all year. And then the Texans had the most total yards of the 3 against the Chiefs in 3 playoff games. So, yes, the Texans know how to move the ball against everybody, but especially the Chiefs. So, Herbie, you down with the cornerback idea?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And to your point on Deshaun Watson, the 2 games that they played against the Chiefs last year combined 668 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, almost 80 yards rushing, and an additional 3 touchdowns. 2 of them came against the Chiefs in the regular season game. So he can hurt the Chiefs. But I think, Vahe and McDowell there, they nailed it with the cornerback position. Coming into training camp, to me, the 2 biggest question marks were who was going to line up at the guard positions and the cornerback, because we heard grumblings that Breeland was going to be suspended for the first 4 games, and now it's official. You look at their schedule right now. You got the Texans, the Chargers, the Ravens, and the Patriots, and you've got some pretty potent passing games in that mix there. And how they do that right cornerback position opposite Ward, it will go a long way in how they will start off fast. I think what's not going to surprise me one bit is if they start off with Rashad Fenton and Ward in the base 4-3, and then when they go into the nickel package, Fenton slides inside against the slot. And now you have your choice between L'Jarius Sneed and potentially Antonio Hamilton on the outside there. But cornerback is the biggest question mark.
Okay, so you've taken guard off the board because of Osemele and Andrew Wiley.
Yeah, and I think because Osemele gives him that veteran presence. He's a two-time All-Pro or former All-Pro, and he's a plug-and-play kind of option. Wiley, they've talked him up throughout training camp, and he's a former starter himself. And the reason why he lost his starting job last year was late in the year. He was battling a knee injury, and Stefan Wisniewski was able to step in, and the Chiefs wanted to go with experience throughout the postseason. Wiley is a guy who knows the system, so I'm not really too concerned now with what they have in place.
Hey, Melly, is it possible they actually upgraded at guard with Osemele?
I want to see it. I think it's possible. I mean, they've had some problems in the interior of their offensive line for a few years now, and you see that show up on 4th and short, 3rd and short when they try to run the ball, especially run it up the middle. But the other thing, you guys have hit on cornerback, and that's the biggest. I think that there's a gap between their next biggest problem, but they haven't stopped the run in like 3 or 4 years. And I keep waiting for a team, and some have gotten close. I thought the 49ers were going to do it in the Super Bowl, and then they kind of went a different direction for whatever reason. But I'm still waiting for a team to just run it 35 times. And just, if you can stop it, good for you. But this is a way that the Chiefs' opponent can gain yardage and keep Patrick Mahomes on the bench. Like I know like run defense is not the biggest thing in the NFL these days, right? It's more important to be able to stop the pass. But I do think it's a hole that remains to be, exploited, or at least I'm waiting for a team to try it more than they have so far.
Carlos Hyde had his moments against the Chiefs last year.
Yeah.
David Johnson, of course, is that guy this year. No takers for the punter. He's new punter this year. Tommy Townsend. Not that we just talked about how prolific the scoring is in these games between the Texans and the Chiefs. I don't know if we'll see him on the field as a punter, but how about, for someone like him, for Clyde Edwards-Helaire, for, Willie Gay Jr. playing in their first NFL game on what might be a wet field, a cold field. All three of those players that I just mentioned are from the SEC, probably don't play in environments like, I can assure you they haven't played in environments like they're going to play in on Thursday night, NFL debuts, colder, not 75 or 100,000 people in the stands like they're used to, but 75. I'm kind of looking at that too. What how the new players, the rookies especially, are going to react to the environment. Hey, so Jack Hilliard wants to know. We just talked about the concerns, but where are the Chiefs improved? Where might they be better this year? I'll throw it open to anybody. Where might the Chiefs be better this season?
Running back. Sorry, go ahead, Melly.
No, I was just going to say, you look at the first 2 picks in the draft, and they improved offensively, as crazy as that is. I mean, if you think about what they were for all 19 games last season, they didn't get much out of running back until Damian Williams emerged later. And Edwards-Helaire is a clear upgrade. I keep saying this, man. He's going to be an absolute star. And Willie Gay Jr. is a terrific fit for what they needed on defense. They got exploited. By teams throwing to backs out of, in the passing game, designed passes specifically. I'm thinking of the Packers game very heavily there. And I think Willie Gay Jr. can help solve that problem.
I love the Edwards-Helaire pick simply because of his versatility and what he can do in this offense. When you look back at Andy Reid's time in Philadelphia, he got the most out of this offense when he had versatile dual threat running backs like your Brian Westbrook, LaShawn McCoy in his prime. When he first got here in 2013, he had Jamal Charles who could run it and catch it out of the backfield. Now you have a dynamic weapon like Edwards-Helaire who comes from, to me, the best football conference in college, the SEC, where to me that's pretty much like the NFL farm leagues. And then for him to put up the numbers that he did there and leading them to the national championship, now you add another shiny new toy to Andy Reid's offense. They're going to figure out a way to get the ball in his hands in space. I love that pick.
I see those points, and I know Sam McDowell's been focused. I think Sam McDowell's focused on McCole Hardman. I think he's going to be a different kind of guy this year. There was some great bursts with him last year, but really I thought kind of inconsistent overall. And part of that was trying to develop trust with Patrick Mahomes and things like that. I think we had a few different times where Patrick might be seen or heard telling him to keep running, et cetera. So I think between that and the upgrade with Edwards-Helaire, somehow the offense is going to be, I think, more problematic for a lot of teams, even as they try to adjust and develop a book on the Chiefs. And look, just one quick thing about the defense. Despite what we're saying about cornerback, I mean, think about where they were a year ago going into the season and where they finished the season. I think they will start off much closer to the defense that they were pretty stout in the last month or so and through the playoffs in a lot of ways, as opposed to what was really a lot of flux early last season with new schemes and coordinators and so much new personnel.
Well, what about, if Hardman's numbers improve this year and Edwards-Helaire becomes the weapon that we think he can be, whose numbers get reduced? Where do they come out of? Do they come out of Tyreek Hill's production, Travis Kelce's, Sammy Watkins? Whose numbers recede a little bit this year, Sam?
Snaps wise, I think DeMarcus Robinson. I mean, DeMarcus Robinson had, I think, 750 snaps last year, and McCole Hardman had about 450. I think that gap narrows this year. McCole Hardman, though, and Vahe made a good point on him, because I do expect him to take a step forward. When you look at his rookie year, it was remarkably similar numbers-wise to the rookie year that Tyreek Hill had. And there was a question after Tyreek Hill's rookie year was, can he become a full-time receiver? They used him in the backfield. It was kind of a gimmicky sort of player, and he improved his route running. He improved his cuts at the top of routes, and that's what McCole Hardman has to do. I think there was a little bit too much bend in his routes when you rewatch the tape on his rookie year. Obviously, he's got incredible straight line speed, but he's got to develop those short and intermediate routes to get on the field more often. And that's what he said he worked on in the offseason. So we'll see it in the game on Thursday, exactly how much improvement there's been there.
To that point on McCole Hardman, I think there's a reason why the Chiefs probably want to also get him more involved in this scheme. You got to remember, Sammy Watkins and DeMarcus Robinson are in contract years. So you got to know what Hardman can do. That helps the decision process if you want to bring Watkins and Robinson back at the end of the year. So this is a good year for Hardman.
Hey, it's Blair. We have a special subscription offer for SportsBeat KC listeners, unlimited digital access to the Kansas City Star's award-winning sports coverage. Sign up now for 1 year of Sports Pass for access to all the sports news, features, and columns presented on the kansascity.com site, and it's only $30. That's a 40% savings off our regular rate. Your subscription will automatically renew after the initial term at $50 unless you tell us to cancel. Your subscription helps support the sports coverage of kansascity.com and the Kansas City Star, and that support has never been more important. Please visit kansascity.com/SportsBeatKC offer to get this special offer. And as always, thanks for listening. Herbie, going back to Willie Gay, what kind of role do you see for him this year? We know from talking to Dave Teope, he's going to be used a lot on special teams.
Yeah, he's absolutely going to get used to special teams. But as far as the defense, here we go with I would not be surprised. Because you got to remember the depth chart is unofficial. But when they're in a 4-3 base, I think it's pretty clear it's going to be Anthony Hitchens, Damian Wilson, and Ben Neiman. And because that's the way they've lined up throughout training camp whenever they were in 4-3 base. It was always those three linebackers. So it makes perfect sense to do this because, I think it was Melly who brought up the point earlier, or excuse me, it was Vahe, about adjusting to the scheme. Gay didn't have the benefit of OTAs, rookie minicamp, the mandatory minicamp, before training camp. He had to hit training camp. He hit the ground running. And Spagnuolo's scheme took the Chiefs that long to ease into it and get used to it by midseason, and they had training camp last year. You can't expect Gay to all of a sudden just toss him into the fire. It makes perfect sense for Neiman to start off.
Okay, let's talk about a couple of things that are sort of outside the competition, and that is the Chiefs, one of just a few teams in the NFL that are allowing fans into the stadium, but only up to like 16,000 or so. Jeremy Barnes, your question comes right on time. Do you think the lack of a crowd will have an effect on player excitement and energy on the field, and how might that affect their performance? I just wonder. I think opposing quarterbacks aren't going to be hurt by noise, and so I don't think snap counts will be disrupted, that sort of thing. But what kind of impact can basically playing in front of a college spring game crowd in terms of noise and attendance have on on this game? Throw it open to anybody.
It's a really interesting question, and I'm going to try to throw it right over to Sam Mellinger after this, just because, Sam, you had some semi-direct experience with this at that sporting game. On one hand, I wonder if it might put some of the younger players more at ease in a way. I'm not sure about that, though, because obviously you still know it's national television audience, the NFL opener, a lot to play for, but it's just not going to look and feel the same. And what I don't quite know yet, and maybe you guys do, is to what degree this mix is going to get some piped in effects similar to what we've seen in baseball, for instance, which is, at least to the viewer at home is at least sounds like what it might normally sound like. I think we're going to hear a lot more of the effects watching on TV than we normally would, but I don't know what that's going to feel like on the field. So I really am curious, Sam Mellinger, I mean, how you feel about what you saw at Sporting and how much that will translate to this, do you think?
Yeah, I think I've mentioned on this fine program and other places, like I was blown away by how much I was moved by 2,300 or whatever it was fans at that Sporting game. I did not realize how much I missed hearing spontaneous crowd noise. It literally, the hairs on my arm stood up. It was an incredible thing. Look, like we've all followed sports a long time, and we've heard athletes and coaches talk a lot about, the involvement of the crowd and the effect that has on the game. Unless that's all BS, there has to be some effect now, right? Between 75,000 and 16,300 or whatever it's going to be. But I do wonder, I mean, these are professional athletes, and especially with these two teams that are going to be playing on Thursday, these guys have high level ambitions, high level aspirations beyond just this game. And my assumption, I don't know this for sure, but my assumption would be that those guys can find another place to go to get that. And whatever process they go through internally, I would assume that they can be able to fill that gap. The biggest difference, I would think, is just sort of theatrical, if I can use that word, of just it will feel different in the stadium. I mean, one of the coolest things Kansas City has to offer is Arrowhead Stadium filled with 75,000 people screaming out of a commercial break, and it's third down, and either Patrick Mahomes is going into the huddle, or Chris Jones is dancing at the line of scrimmage, one of those things. And you're not necessarily going to have that. I just wonder if like the fan experience will be diminished a little bit, but at least for this game, I would assume that there'll be as much energy and focus from the players as there would be, in a normal year.
What kind of pregame demonstration or protest might we see from the Chiefs and or the Texans? Actually, I think it'll be some kind of combined effort, I suspect. First of all, do you think that's true, and what form might it take?
I would assume there will be. Yeah, Deshaun Watson was in that video, wasn't he? The Black Lives Matter video.
Yeah.
With Patrick Mahomes and Tyrann Mathieu. I would assume there'll be something, whether that's in the locker room for the anthem or whether it's kneeling, but I would expect it to be like sort of collective as well. Major League Baseball, they had the first crack at this in some ways, right? And there was, the black fabric, that all the players knelt with and while they played a Black Lives Matter video. Maybe they do that and then everybody stands for the anthem. I don't know, but I would expect there to be something. And I would expect it to be collective rather than, sort of individual.
Yeah, Tyrann Mathieu basically mentioned last week, or was it this week, I guess, that the two teams have been talking. And Bill O'Brien on Monday in his teleconference that the Kansas City media was allowed on said he thinks it'll be some sort of connected effort between the two teams out there. They've talked about it so much, I would be shocked if there's nothing done.
And I certainly feel like that's been the message from at least just from the Chiefs side all along, right? We keep hearing even little hints with things Andy Reid has said, or to some degree things Clark Hunt said. That the suggestion seems to be they will do something as one.
What I would hope, because we're over here talking about protests and potential kneeling. And I hope the focus isn't on the protest, the silent protest, or the kneeling itself. The focus needs to remain on the issues that's prompting these protests. And I hope that like the athletes get that through, and whatever the broadcast says about it, they cannot lose the message. There's a reason why they're doing it. And that's the key thing.
Patrick, among others, has done a good job, I think, articulating that point, and I think it's paramount, Herbie. I'm glad you said it the way you did.
Okay, hey, a couple of quick points. Will Juan Thornhill play tomorrow night? I believe he will, right?
Yeah, he practiced fully these last 2 days, and I like how the Chiefs worked him in when he came off the physically unable to perform list. They worked him in slowly. They started him off on 7-on-7 drills during training camp, and then he went to 9-on-7. And then the final day, he was on 11-on-11. And that's the perfect way to do it. And short of a setback here, he should be full go for Thursday night.
Okay, good to know. And one of the great national media presence in the country when it comes to pro football, Therese Paylor says hello to everybody. So,
Therese!
Somebody.
Boy!
All right, we've come to the portion of the show that is endorsed by Candy Corn. A treat approved by 20% of this panel. So we got a couple of Candy Corn questions for you today. The first one is, I'll tell you what, guys. Just seeing the NFL on TV Thursday, opening game for the opening weekend, I cannot wait to watch it, to see it. And we've had baseball, we've had soccer, we've had the NBA and the NHL. Sports have been back, right? I think the audience, the TV audience, is going to be huge. And really, I find now is the time to sort of put away the binge watching that I've done over the spring and summer during the COVID. And I did catch up on some shows that I've always thought, if I ever have time, I'm going to sit down and watch. And I watched a couple of them. So I want to ask you guys, if you've done any binge watching this summer, what did you like? And do you have any recommendations? And to people who are chiming in with questions, I wouldn't mind hearing from you guys as well. What were your favorite summer binge watching shows? So let's start with you, Vahe.
Blair, first, thanks for confirming that it's older folks like you and me that just call it the COVID. Right now, this might have been a Kerkhoff recommendation. I'd seen it a little bit here and there before, but we are way knee deep in Veep. We're about into season 6, and it is so funny, so vulgar. I really couldn't recommend it for everybody, but it's pretty funny. And before that, we watched SCHITT''S Creek, and that was another Kerkhoff recommendation. Also, Fleabag, The Wire, and Watchmen. I would recommend.
Wow.
Did you do anything else?
every single night, with no sports going on at night other than some Royals nights. That's been about 4 months worth now. I don't want to make it sound like it's just the last week or two.
Yeah, the Royals have definitely changed my viewing habits. How about you, Sam McDowell?
You know what? I would love to see our viewers' comments on this, because I feel like we struggled to find something to actually latch onto. So I watched Billions and finally caught up on that. Succession on HBO is fantastic, but that's only had 2 seasons. So I don't like watching things as they come out. I'd rather watch after the show's all over so I can completely catch up on it. So there hasn't, I feel like all those top shows, The Wire's fantastic, Breaking Bad's fantastic, but I've seen all those multiple times. So like I said, I'm interested in the viewers' comments on this, because I'd love to get some suggestions.
Well, one that's come in is Watchmen. I've heard of it, haven't seen it. We'll have to check it out.
Well, I assume Vahe has. I mean, what hasn't he seen during this quarantine?
I did.
He did see it.
Yeah, it was terrific. It really was jarring and interesting all at once.
Right. All right, Herbie, I know you'll have some answer that'll surprise us all.
No, not really. For me, it's because I refuse to believe how Game of Thrones ended. So I like to remember what it was like. So I do this every summer. I will always binge watch the Game of Thrones seasons 1 through 7 now, and that's it. And I'll just continue watching it because I always like to remember what it was. And then Peacock. The Peacock app through NBC, Poker After Dark. I didn't realize they were showing all the old Poker After Dark stuff. So every now and then before I go to sleep, pop the phone up and pop the app on, and I'll just watch Poker After Dark and then go to sleep.
Herbie watched Rounders 38 times.
Yes, I did. Yes.
And texted me every single time he was watching it.
Screen grabs, Max. Screen grabs.
All right, Melly, what you got?
So, as it turns out, I had never watched Sopranos, and my wife had never watched The Wire. And so we kind of like traded off for a little bit. But then at some point, I realized I was more into Sopranos than she was into The Wire. So we stopped that. But have you guys seen Yellowstone?
No.
It's amazing. It's
no,
great.
Heard good things, though.
Yeah. I mean, we're kind of not even through season 1. No, I'm sorry, just started season 2, but it's great. It is fantastic. Kevin Costner is like this, billionaire rancher, around Yellowstone Park somewhere, and it's fantastic.
I've written it down.
Blair,
Give us the way to watch that for free, though, Sam. What's the best way to watch that?
Can't do it. We've been paying like a couple bucks on YouTube for the early episodes. We got season 3 recorded. It's on. It's not Netflix. It's not Amazon. It's some channel. Paramount, maybe. Is there a Paramount network?
Yeah, Paramount.
Yeah. But we've been paying a couple bucks for the episodes on YouTube. Is that wasted money? Do you have a better way for me?
No, I mean, I'll take your login though.
Blair, I just
My credit card to buy it on YouTube.
Your login information.
Yeah, I'm not doing that.
Just as a matter of record, I early on in the COVID, I spoke with Mike Matheny, and he was talking about how he was probably going to go and sharpen his Spanish and maybe play a lot of music. And I remember thinking, okay, yeah, I'm going to use this time to learn a language and an instrument, and instead I watched all those shows.
Hey, Blair and Vahe, I think the young kids call it the Ron, not the COVID, the Ron.
Right there.
Blair's writing it down, the Ron.
So mine, everybody had seen Homeland, right? I was the last person to see Homeland. But one I came across was a show called Trapped. Murder mystery set in Iceland. Really well done. Can't recommend Trapped enough. Okay, let's start to wind it down with this question. We actually had a little conversation about it earlier in the day, and that is prop bets. So I'm going to give you three prop bets heading into this season involving the Chiefs. I want to know where you stand on this. Over or under Chiefs victory total for the year. Vegas has it at 11.5, 11.5. Patrick Mahomes touchdown passes, 36.5. Patrick Mahomes interceptions, 8.5. So are we going to go over or under those totals? By the way, the Chiefs 11.5 leads the NFL. The Ravens are second at 11, and then I think the 49ers and the Saints right behind them at maybe 10.5. So let's start with you, Herbie. Let's go Chiefs victory total over under. Patrick Mahomes touchdown passes and interceptions.
Okay, I had to write it all down because there's like too many numbers. This is the reason why we're journalists, because we suck at math. So I had to write these numbers down. 11.5. I'm going to take the over. And I know winning 12 games is hard in the National Football League, but what's interesting to me is Andy Reid and the Chiefs have done it in 3 of the last 4 seasons. So going 12-4 is like a day at the office for the Chiefs. So I'm going to take the over. Patrick Mahomes is more than 36.5.
Yeah.
Yep, I'll take the over on that too. I think we've seen enough of this guy, and I'm just officially blown away from watching him at camp. The throws this guy can make. You see it on TV, but until you see it in person, this is something to behold. I'm taking the over, and for the interceptions, I'm also going to take the over because of those crazy throws. Sometimes he has a little bit of Brett Favre in him sometimes. He may not throw as many interceptions as far, but a couple of them will get picked off. So I'm going over on all three.
Okay. How about you, Sam McDowell?
This might seem kind of homerish, but I think I'm going over on the record. Patrick Mahomes is what, 23-7, I think. So
24-7 as a starter.
24-7, okay. I think the Chiefs I think they're 13-3 or even 14-2 this year, and I think that's just a bet on Patrick Mahomes' health to take the over. And apparently the guy is basically, to stretch Armstrong even with his knees. So I'm going to take the over on that. 36 touchdowns. I mean, he averages 2.5 touchdowns a game, so that gets you above 36. And the interceptions. Trying to think of how many interceptions did he throw that first year? It was in the double digits.
10, I think, right?
10.
10?
I mean, just if your first year he's only throwing that many, I think it's hard to predict he's going to throw 9 this year. So I'm going to take the under on that one.
Okay. All right, Melly, what you got?
As much as and I'm sorry, Sam, it was 12 interceptions the first year. But as much as I hate to do this, I am on Team Herbie with this over. The wins, I think you can make a case 11-5 or whatever. But if Mahomes makes 16 starts, or even 15, I'd honestly be very surprised if he didn't get to that touchdown number. And the interceptions, that just seems like a very low number for a guy that's going to throw it. However, he's going to throw it 60% of the snaps. I just think that's a really low number. They're playing some good defenses, so I'm going to take the over on all of them.
Okay, Vahe, what you got?
Blair, I may have answered this differently on a different forum earlier today. But it seems to me I feel frustrated by the Sam McDowell case for over under. All it takes though are 3 tipped passes that become an interception. But Patrick's pretty interesting about avoidance of high risk passes, despite the gambler in him or the apparent gambler in him. I think he appears to many to do things that are more risky than they are. At least that's how I've come to view it. So I'll go with my revised over under.
Okay. All right. A couple of things to keep in mind. Mahomes threw 26 touchdown passes in the regular season last year. He missed 2 full games and then basically 3/4 of another. He wouldn't have gotten to. It would have been tough for him to get to 36. Maybe he would have gotten there. But I think that's a fair number. I think the 36.5 is a fair number. I think the 11.5. How about this stat? Andy Reid's never gone under in his 7 years with the Chiefs. Every year his team has surpassed the over/under total. So
is that right? Holy cow!
That's incredible.
Yep.
That is.
So that to me is the easiest one on the board. The one I struggled with the most was the interceptions. I'm going to go over on that as well. I just think with a new running back, I just think circumstances will be such that he'll average 1.2 a game, something like that, or less than. I'm sorry, no, about a half pick a game, get him to 8. So I'm going over with that. Let's end it on this. How about you guys have already put it out there a little bit, some final records for the Chiefs. We'll go in reverse order. I'll go first. Chiefs have never been better than 13-3. I'm going to go one better this year and say 14-2. I think this team is capable of 14-2. I really hope they get in 16 regular season games. So,
yeah.
All right, Vahe, you're up next.
I'm going to go with the 13-3. I'll settle into that little groove.
All right, Melly.
13-3. Yeah, they're fully capable of 14-2, but they got some tough teams on that schedule.
Right, schedule harder for sure.
Yep.
Okay, Sam McDowell.
I think that there's 3 probable losable games with the Saints, Baltimore, and Buffalo all on the road, but I don't think they lose all 3 of them. So I'm going to say 14-2.
Okay, all right, Herbie, what you got?
I'm going to go 12-4, and I also have a bag of candy corn for Melly for being Team Herbie.
Thanks, buddy.
That's great. All right, you guys. Really great catching up with you. and a couple of programming notes we'll be back after the game on Thursday night, maybe Friday morning, depending on when the game ends, on SportsBeat KC Live. Please join us then. SportsBeat KC podcast drops every day. Sam's Mellinger Minutes for Your Ears drops on Friday. Great listen. Make sure you listen to that. Big thanks to Beth Welsh, our producer, for spinning the dials and putting up with us. So until tomorrow night, take care, you guys. So long. That'll do it for today. Thanks for sticking with us for a long episode. And thanks to our production staff of Derek Donovan, Randy Mason, Beth Welsh, Jeff Rosen, Chris Pickett, and Savannah Smith. Also, Monty Davis, who had a hand in today's production. Tip of the cap to my Chiefs coverage colleagues, Sam McDowell, Herbie Teope, Vahe Gregorian, and Sam Mellinger. You can read their stuff in the show notes and on kansascity.com. Earlier in the episode, you heard me talk about the Sports Pass offer. It still stands and still a good one, $30 for a year's worth of sports coverage. And that includes Sports Extra that comes with the e-edition. There's more than 50 additional pages of national sports coverage today. Well, here's an even better offer. Buy the entire Kansas City Star product. Sports news, features, commentary, analysis, the whole thing. You get all the stories written by my talented colleagues, plus additional sports news and business coverage with the e-edition. The details can be found at account.kansascity.com/subscribe. That's account.kansascity.com/subscribe. And whether it's the Sports Pass or the full subscription, you're getting and supporting the best sports and news coverage in Kansas City and helping us produce programs like SportsBeat KC. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back on Thursday with another episode.